November 26, 1943. The skies above Bremen, Germany, shimmered with contrails and chaos. Major Francis "Gabby" Gabreski's pencil trembled slightly as he logged the day's combat in his worn notebook. A day that had shattered every doubt about the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt. Just 8 months earlier, many in the RAF had mocked the bulky American fighter, insisting it would never survive against the sleek and agile German Luftwaffe. But that afternoon, Gabreski's squadron had proved them wrong. "The Luftwaffe will learn to fear the dive," he wrote. What the Thunderbolt lacked in elegance, it made up for with brute physics and raw power. From 28,000 feet, Gabreski had watched his men roll inverted and plunge toward the earth at over 500 miles per hour, a speed that would have ripped the wings off nearly any other aircraft in Europe. Below, German Messerschmitts never saw the danger until 8 streams of 50 caliber fire tore through their fuselages, delivered from above by fighters that seemed to fall like thunderbolts from heaven. The transformation of the Jug began months earlier, on April 13, 1943, when the 56th Fighter Group flew its first combat mission over occupied France. Many pilots were uneasy. The P-47 was enormous, nearly 14,000 pounds in standard configuration, and over 17,000 with external tanks. It dwarfed both the Spitfire and the Focke-Wulf 190, earning nicknames like the Milk Bottle and the 7-ton Jug. Even Lieutenant Robert S. Johnson, fresh from training, feared the worst. Yet, behind that skepticism lay a revolutionary design. Georgian engineer Alexander Kartveli had built the Thunderbolt around the mighty Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp engine, an 18-cylinder monster producing 2,000 horsepower, boosted by a complex turbo supercharger system that piped exhaust gases through ducts to a rear-mounted turbine spinning at over 21,000 RPM. The result? Unmatched performance at 30,000 feet, where most aircraft gasped for oxygen. But that power came with weight. Armor plating, self-sealing fuel tanks, and 8 Browning 50-caliber guns loaded with 3,400 rounds made it a flying fortress in its own right. Many still doubted its agility, until the pilots began testing its limits. On June 12, 1943, Captain Walter Cook of the 61st Squadron achieved the group's first kill, diving from altitude onto an unsuspecting FW-190 over Belgium. That steep vertical dive attack, rather than a turning dogfight, became the 56th Fighter Group's calling card. The next day, Lieutenant Robert Johnson scored his first victory the same way, earning a personal congratulation from General Karl Spaatz. Yet, when Johnson's leader failed to cover him, he found himself swarmed by enemy fighters, a lesson that cemented the need for formation discipline and teamwork in every diving attack. The Thunderbolt's true power was discovered not in combat, but in testing. On November 13, 1942, Lieutenants Harold Comstock and Roger Dyer dove their P-47Cs from 35,000 feet, hitting speeds so high that control surfaces froze solid. Airspeed indicators pegged past 700 mph, possibly the first time manned aircraft had neared the sound barrier. Republic Aviation's engineers quickly realized that while compressibility made recovery nearly impossible, the P-47's thick wing delayed those effects longer than any other fighter. Pilots learned to recover from these death dives by holding firm pressure on the stick without trimming, waiting for denser air to restore control. This training would later save countless lives and turn the Thunderbolt's terrifying descent into a deadly advantage. Through summer 1943, Colonel Hubert Zemke drilled his pilots relentlessly. Climb high, stay disciplined, attack from altitude, and never chase the enemy down low. By June 26th, those lessons were tested in blood. Lieutenant Johnson's P-47C, Half Pint, was shredded by cannon fire from a Focke-Wulf 190. His cockpit filled with smoke, hydraulics failed, and his canopy jammed shut. Trapped inside a burning aircraft, Johnson dove for the channel with a German fighter firing relentlessly behind him. When the Luftwaffe pilot finally saluted and broke away, Johnson somehow limped home, his aircraft riddled with over 200 holes. The Jug's ruggedness had saved him, proving it could take more punishment than any fighter in the sky. By August 17, 1943, those lessons came to fruition during the Regensburg-Schweinfurt mission, one of the largest air battles of the war. The 56th Fighter Group dove from 30,000 feet into climbing formations of Bf-109s and FW-190s, their attacks so fast and coordinated that German pilots could barely react. Within 20 minutes, 16 enemy fighters were destroyed, including that of Major Wilhelm Ferdinand Galland, brother of Luftwaffe ace Adolf Galland. The P-47's protection of the bomber stream marked a turning point. The Thunderbolt had proven it could defend the bombers and dominate the air. By autumn, the results were undeniable. On October 4, 1943, over Frankfurt, the 56th destroyed 16 enemy aircraft, while losing only 2 to flak. 4 days later, Johnson executed a perfect boom and zoom attack over Bremen, killing an FW-190 in less than a minute. On October 10th, he became an ace, destroying 3 more German fighters in a single mission, including, unknowingly, Hans Philipp, one of the Luftwaffe's top-scoring aces with 206 victories. His Thunderbolt was again riddled with cannon fire, but he brought it home. Ground crews counted over 200 hits. The engine still ran. The pilot still lived. These battles proved the P-47's dual nature: lethal in attack, indestructible in defense. Pilots gained confidence, knowing the Jug could absorb terrifying damage and still fly. Kill ratios soared. Between June and December 1943, the 56th achieved over 11.1 kill-to-loss ratios against German fighters, with some missions exceeding 15.1 when tactics were followed precisely. At high altitude, physics was on their side. Diving from 30,000 feet converted potential energy into unstoppable speed. German fighters simply couldn't match it. The FW-190 risked structural failure above 450 millitones, while the P-47 roared past 500 with ease, then zoomed back to safety before enemies could respond. By late 1943, Luftwaffe reports told the story. Pilots were refusing to climb above 25,000 feet. Some even abandoned high-altitude interceptions entirely, preferring to attack bombers during takeoff or landing rather than face thunderbolts descending like steel meteors from the sun. Major Günter Rall, one of Germany's leading aces, later admitted that the P-47 was most dangerous when it was above you. You never saw it coming. It was just there, and then you were gone. The dives demanded extreme physical endurance. Pulling out at 500 MEPR generated over 7 Gs, forcing blood from the brain and causing blackouts. Pilots developed their own G-resistance techniques, grunting, tensing muscles, and limiting pullouts to survive. Many returned from missions physically shattered, their vision blurred and spines aching, but alive. Then came January 11, 1944. The 56th Fighter Group faced over 100 enemy aircraft during an escort mission deep into Germany. Gabreski led 6 diving attacks, destroying 3 fighters himself. By day's end, 22 German aircraft were downed for the loss of just 4 P-47s. A month later came Big Week, February 20th to 25th, 1944, when the 8th Air Force launched thousands of bomber sorties in a final bid to cripple German aircraft production. The 56th flew 16 missions, its seasoned pilots cutting through the Luftwaffe with deadly precision. 87 German fighters fell in those few days, their skies dominated by thunderbolts roaring in near-supersonic dives. By March 1944, air superiority over Germany was achieved. The once mocked Jug had evolved into the hammer of the Allied air war, a machine that rewrote the rules of aerial combat. The Thunderbolt story was not just about engineering, but adaptation. From skepticism to supremacy, from fear to fury, it embodied the brute resilience of the men who flew it. And as Gabreski and his pilots knew by war's end, the P-47's true weapon wasn't its guns or armor. It was gravity itself, harnessed by courage and precision into a weapon the Luftwaffe could neither match nor escape.